Long ago, the Druids were the wisdom keepers, the storytellers, and the guardians of nature's secrets. They stood beneath the stars and listened to the voices in the wind. They read the language of trees, understood the whispers of rivers, and traced the cycles of the sun and moon. Their magic wasn't about control, it was about connection. A Druid knew that to wield true power, one must first listen, observe, and move in harmony with the world. Their rituals were woven into the turning of the seasons. Fires burned bright at Beltane, marking the dance of life, while the veil between worlds thinned at Samhain, when ancestors walked among the living. They spoke in the Carr-Gomm, a script carved into stone and wood, each symbol tied to a sacred tree, each tree holding a lesson. Today, Druidry is alive as it ever was, not confined to ancient times but flowing through those who seek its path. It calls to those who hear the song of the earth, those who find wisdom in the rustling of leaves or the dance of flames. It is not a faith of blind belief, but of experience, of stepping into the wild, opening your senses, and becoming part of the great story that nature has always told. And if you listen closely, even now, you may hear it, the whisper of the grove, inviting you in. The path of Druidry begins where the wild things grow. It is not written in books or carved in stone, but whispered in the rustling leaves, woven into the turning of the seasons, and carried in the breath of the wind. It is an old way, stretching back to a time when wisdom was not measured in words but in the deep knowing of the land. The Druids of old were more than priests. They were storytellers, healers, and keepers of the natural order. They watched the stars to mark the passage of time, listened to the rivers as if they spoke, and stood in sacred groves to call upon the spirits of the earth. They understood that wisdom does not belong to one person or one age, but flows like a great river from those who walked before to those yet to come. Even now, Druidry lives in those who seek its path, not in temples or scripture, but in the quiet recognition that nature is both teacher and sacred force. It is in the fire that warms, the water that heals, and the soil that remembers. It is a tradition of reverence, of looking to the past, not to dwell there, but to carry forward the lessons it left behind. To walk this path is not to follow rules, but to listen to the land, to the ancestors, and to the voice within. To understand Druidry, we must step into the past. The roots of Druidry lie in the ancient Celtic traditions, a way of life deeply intertwined with the rhythms of nature, the wisdom of the ancestors, and the unseen forces that shape the world. The Celts, a diverse and widespread people, thrived across Europe, from the misty isles of Ireland and Britain to the vast forests of Gaul and beyond. To them, the land was alive with spirit. Every hill, stone, and stream held meaning, inhabited by gods, spirits, and the echoes of those who came before. Unlike the structured religions that would later dominate history, their spiritual practice was not confined to temples or written doctrine. It was woven into daily life, guided by the cycles of the seasons and the wisdom of the Druids. The Druids were more than just priests. They were the heart of Celtic society. They were the lawgivers, healers, seers, and storytellers, the ones who carried the knowledge of their people across generations. Their wisdom was vast, passed down orally rather than written, ensuring that their teachings remained fluid and alive, growing like the forest they revered. A druid could stand between warring tribes and halt battle with nothing but their presence. They could read the movements of birds, the shifting patterns of the stars, and the whispers in the wind. They understood that the world was not simply what could be seen, but a vast and layered tapestry of spirit and energy. They conducted rituals in sacred groves where towering oaks formed natural temples. They celebrated the great festivals of the year, lighting fires at Beltane to honor the summer's warmth, marking Samhain as the time when the veil between worlds grew thin. They gathered on the solstices and equinoxes, aligning their ceremonies with the turning of the earth, recognizing the balance between light and dark, growth and decay. To the Celts, the land was not just a backdrop, it was a living force. Mountains and rivers were not just geographical features, they were ancient beings, respected and revered. The Celts honored their ancestors not just as memories, but as active presences, guiding and watching over them. The dead were never truly gone. They walked alongside the living, offering wisdom in dreams, omens, and the quiet moments of reflection. The practice of leaving offerings, perhaps a cup of mead poured into the earth, or a simple token placed beneath an old tree, was a way of maintaining this relationship. The world was not divided into the sacred and the ordinary. Everything from the smallest stone to the tallest oak was imbued with spirit. One of the strongest ties between modern Druidry and its Celtic roots is the tradition of storytelling. The Druids did not write down their knowledge, not because they lacked the ability, but because they understood that spoken words held power. A story told from one generation to the next did more than preserve history. It shaped the way people understood the world. The tales of gods and heroes were not mere entertainment. They were lessons guiding people on how to live in balance with nature, with their communities, and with themselves. The myths of the Tuatha De Danann, the old gods of Ireland, spoke of beings deeply connected to the land, embodying the forces of nature. The story of the Battle of the Trees, a mythical war where each tree fought as a warrior, revealed the Celts' belief in the sacredness of the forest. Even today, Druidry continues this oral tradition. Modern Druids speak their prayers aloud, sing their invocations, and tell their stories beneath the stars, just as their ancestors once did. Few names conjure the mystique of Druidry like Merlyn, though most know him as the wise wizard of King Arthur's court. His roots run much deeper, woven into the ancient traditions of the Druids, the seers, and the storytellers of the Celtic world. In the oldest tales, Merlyn was not merely a magician, but a druidic figure, a guardian of nature's secrets, a prophet who spoke with animals and walked between worlds. Some legends call him Myrddin, a wild shaman-like figure who lived in the forests of Wales after witnessing the horrors of war. Driven to madness, he found wisdom in the whispers of the trees, gaining insight into the deeper forces of the land. His role in Arthurian legend is one of mentor and guide, shaping the young Arthur into the king who would unite Britain. In this, he reflects the ancient druidic role as a teacher and advisor, one who does not rule, but whose wisdom directs the fate of a people. He initiates Arthur into the mysteries of kingship, bestows the sword Excalibur, and orchestrates the events that lead to the rise of Camelot. Beyond the tales of knights and battles, the Arthurian legends carry echoes of older Celtic traditions. The concept of a sacred king, chosen by the land, reflects the Druid's belief in the harmony between ruler and nature. The Lady of the Lake, who gifts and retrieves Excalibur, mirrors the importance of water as a spiritual force in Druidic practice. Even the quest for the Holy Grail, often seen as a Christian motif, shares themes with the Druidic pursuit of wisdom, transformation, and the otherworldly cauldron of rebirth found in Celtic myth. Merlyn's legacy endures not just as a character in a medieval romance, but as a symbol of the ancient wisdom that Druidry preserves, a bridge between past and present, myth and magic, guiding those who seek the old ways. At the heart of Druidry lies the understanding that all life moves in cycles. The sun rises and sets, seasons turn, trees grow and fall, and we too move through rhythms of birth, growth, death, and renewal. This worldview is not just poetic, it's foundational. The sacred circle is how Druids experience and honor this truth. It is both a literal ritual space and a symbolic map of how life unfolds. When Druids gather for ritual, they often cast a circle, not to create a barrier, but to acknowledge that what happens within is connected to the whole of life. The circle reflects unity, balance, and wholeness. There is no hierarchy in a circle. All points are equidistant from the center. In this way, it expresses the core Druidic value that all beings, human, animal, spirit, stone, are part of one sacred web. The circle may be formed physically with stones or staves, or imagined through movement, intention, and breath. It becomes a living temple, a moment when time slows and the spiritual becomes visible. Within it, Druids work with energy, offer blessings, celebrate, mourn, and seek wisdom. The most well-known expression of this cyclic view is the Wheel of the Year. It is made up of 8 festivals that mark the changing seasons and the transitions of life. Samhain, early winter, death and ancestral connection. Winter solstice, the darkest night, birth of the sun. Imbolc, early spring, renewal and inspiration. Spring equinox, balance and emergence. Beltane, high spring, fertility and passion. Summer solstice, light's peak, celebration of life. Lugnasad, early harvest, skill and sacrifice. Autumn equinox, gratitude and preparation for decline. Each festival represents a phase of existence, not just in nature, but in our inner lives. Druids don't just observe the seasons, they live them, recognizing the outer world as a mirror of the inner. In Druidry, healing is not just the mending of wounds or the easing of illness. It is the restoration of balance. This balance is between body and spirit, mind and heart, human and nature. One of the oldest and most respected paths to this balance is through herbalism, the practice of working with plants for both physical healing and spiritual transformation. To a Druid, plants are not simply resources, they are living beings with spirit and wisdom. Each herb, root, leaf, and flower carries its own energy, history, and voice. The healer's task is to listen. Before a plant is harvested, a Druid might offer a prayer, a pinch of grain, or a drop of water in gratitude. The exchange is never one-sided. It is a relationship, a quiet agreement between the healer and the green world. Just as herbs can heal the body, they can also support spiritual growth and transformation. Certain plants are believed to open the senses, protect the soul, or help one connect to the other world. Mugwort, burned or brewed, is said to enhance dreams and vision. Lavender brings peace and clarity. Vervain was sacred to the Druids, used in rites of purification and blessing. Mistletoe, growing high in the oak, was revered as a symbol of life and healing from the gods themselves. These herbs were often used in rituals, worn as amulets, or placed on altars. They served as bridges between the visible and the invisible, the everyday and the sacred. In ancient Celtic societies, the healer was a vital figure, part herbalist, part priest, part guide. They knew the cycles of the moon, when to gather which herbs, how to prepare and combine them, and how to match a remedy not just to a disease, but to the spirit of the person receiving it. This tradition continues today. Modern druids may grow their own herbs, forage mindfully, study traditional plant lore, or blend ancient knowledge with modern herbal science. But always the heart of the practice remains the same: respect, intention, and relationship. Healing is not imposed, it is invited. In Druidry, to heal is to participate in the natural world's own process of regeneration. Whether soothing a fever with tea, placing herbs in a ritual bath, or burning incense for clarity, the act becomes a form of sacred service. It is an offering, a return of care to the earth that sustains us. And in return, the green world gives back, gently, patiently, teaching us not only how to heal others, but how to heal ourselves. In every leaf is a lesson, in every root a story, in every garden a chance to begin again. Druidry is deeply elemental. Everything sacred is expressed through earth, air, fire, and water. These aren't abstract ideas, they're the fundamental forces of nature and spirit, and each plays a unique role in ritual and magic. Earth is stability, memory, the ancestors. In ritual, it grounds and gives form. Air is thought, speech, the breath of life. It carries messages and clears the mind. Fire is passion, transformation, illumination. It's the energy that drives will and change. Water is emotion, intuition, and the flow between worlds. It blesses, cleanses, and heals. In Druidic rites, each direction is called in with its corresponding element. A bowl of water, a lit candle, a feather, a stone. Each represents a presence, a living essence, invited to participate in the work. The elements respond not just to gestures, but to intention. The practitioner becomes a bridge, balancing and blending these forces to bring about change within the self or the world. To walk a druidic path is to live in relationship with the natural world, and trees are at the center of that connection. Sacred groves were once the temples of the druids. Oaks, ash, yew, and rowan were not just trees. They were elders, guardians, teachers. The Carr-Gomm alphabet used by the ancient Irish druids reflects this reverence. Each character is linked to a specific tree or plant, and each carries spiritual meaning. For example, birch, bite, for beginnings, oak, deer, for strength and doorway, yew, idho, for death and transformation. Carr-Gomm was used not just for writing, but for divination and meditation. A few strokes carved on wood or stone held layers of wisdom, pointing the seeker toward deeper understanding. In Druidry, magic reaches beyond the physical world. Shape-shifting isn't literal transformation. It's stepping into the awareness of another being, sensing the world as an animal would, to gain new perspective. Vision quests are deep, intentional journeys into the other world, the realm of spirits, ancestors, and hidden truths. Through solitude, trance, or guided meditation, druids seek insight, healing, or guidance. Both practices require trust. What arises in these states is rarely chance. It's a reflection, a message, a lesson from the unseen world. Embarking on the path of Druidry is a journey into nature's wisdom and ancestral traditions. Here are some book recommendations if you want to learn more about this path. The Druid Way by Philip Carr-Gomm, a modern accessible guide to Druid philosophy. Druidcraft, The Magic of Wicca and Druidry by Philip Carr-Gomm, blends Druidry with Wicca and is practical and ritual focused. The 21 Lessons of Merlyn by Douglas Monroe, a mythical, immersive take on Druid magic and lore.